You want to solo travel, but every time you think about doing it, the fear kicks in. Where do I even start? Is it safe? Will I get lonely? You're not wrong for feeling that. I definitely felt it too. So let's talk about it, and here is everything that I've learned after years of solo travel myself. The number one thing that kept me from solo travel for years was my fear of safety. I am a female, and of course we have more things to worry about. And so I was definitely a little fearful about traveling to other countries. If you're really smart about where you go, you do your research, it can be absolutely safe. I've been to probably a dozen countries myself solo, and just be smart about it. But I've got some tips for you to make sure that you stay safe and where to start. The first most important thing is to pick a safe destination. I know that's really hard to do because the news really blows things up about what's safe and what's not. The countries that I would definitely recommend, my number one safest country, if you've never solo traveled before and you just want to go somewhere where you're going to have a good time, feel safe, and start to get more comfortable with the idea of solo travel, is Iceland. I've been there several times. I'm going back again solo, and it is one of the most safe countries in the world. After that, places like Norway, Finland, Switzerland, all of those places are really safe, but the first thing you want to do is just do your research. I would not recommend going to a place like Egypt or Morocco, places like that first, where there's definitely a lot of civil unrest. Look at those Nordic countries because those are going to be your best bet for the first places to go. I also take a lot of precautions when I travel solo. First thing is I leave a trace. I make sure that my family and my husband know exactly where I am, what hotels I'm staying at, what my activities are. They also are able to track me on their iPhones. I know that's kind of a controversial thing. Some people don't like to be tracked like that, but set them up on your phone to be able to track you because it is really important for somebody to know where you are at all times. Next, I am very vague with strangers. If I meet anybody, I do not tell them how long I've been in town, how long I'm going to be in town, where I'm staying, not even the area that I'm staying. There's people that are going to be super friendly and it's completely innocent, but it's not worth it to try to guess who those people are. Just be very vague. Don't tell strangers before you leave where you're going or what you're doing, like exact dates and things like that. You can say, yeah, I'm going to Iceland, but don't say exactly when. Unfortunately, you do have to be very cautious, keep your guard up, and just don't divulge too much information to those that really don't need to have that information. Next up is I don't ever post live on anything, social media, Instagram, I'm not on Facebook, even YouTube. I don't post anything live while I'm in the place, and that comes for all my travel. Like right now, I'm somewhere and I won't post this until after we've left this area. Nobody out there who doesn't know you needs to know exactly where you are when you're gonna be there. It doesn't need to happen. Anytime you're somewhere by yourself, just wait until you actually leave that place before you post about it. Next up is an easy one for me because I'm not a drinker. Ladies, if you are out solo traveling, do not spend your time hanging out in bars. It's just not worth it. I don't drink at all when I'm out, especially by myself. I don't really drink anyways. You do not want to be hanging out in bars. If you're looking for a place to meet people, to kind of get to know some of the locals, think about what your hobbies are. For me, example, I'm a knitter. I love knitting and crocheting. I love yarn stores. And so if I wanted to meet the locals, I would look up on the website the local yarn shops and see when their get together, their knit nights are, and go hang out at those. That's where I would spend my time if I was looking to meet people and hang out. But again, be vague about everything. Next up is I really do still love to do tours with reputable local tour operators. I don't ever do tours from people who've stopped me on the street and said, hey, come on my boat and do this whale watching tour. I don't do any of that. Anytime I book a tour, it is directly through that company's website. So I don't ever walk off a ship or walk out of my hotel room and meet somebody who's got some tour to take me on. I don't ever do those. And I also don't accept rides if they say they're Ubers or anything like that. I actually have a little bit of a scary story about my time in Costa Rica. I'll tell you that at the end if you're interested. But don't accept rides from anybody who is not an obviously reputable person. And by that, I mean, book it in advance and then be really smart about who it is that's picking you up. Because in Costa Rica, that got a little sketchy. I think the hardest thing for me traveling solo is just the decision fatigue. When you're with a partner or friends, you've got other people to sort of help you make decisions and sort of decide where you're gonna go and what you're gonna do. But honestly, when it's just you and you can literally do whatever you want, decision fatigue is pretty stressful, but that is a good problem to have because that means that you're out having fun, doing stuff. You just have to make a few decisions about what you're doing. I am a planner. I do tend to plan stuff in advance because I, again, like to know exactly where I'm going to be going, who I'm going to be going with, and I can also leave that information with my family and my husband. That's me. I'm a planner. But you do also want to leave a little bit of room for some magic. You know, some of those things that you get there and you realize, oh, that looks like fun, from a brochure in the hotel, not from somebody who stops you in the street telling you that they've got a tour for you. Try to plan your trip out a little bit so that you at least have some idea of what you're going to be doing, because it does take away some of that decision fatigue that can be really exhausting. One of the questions I get asked is if I'm lonely. Do I feel weird eating at restaurants by myself? Or sometimes if I'm just looking for something chill to do, sometimes I'll go to a movie. I am definitely more of a lone wolf than I used to be. I have no problems being alone. If you're eating alone in a restaurant, it is not a big deal. People don't care. You might think they do, but they don't. And if you are super weird about that, just get the food to take out and go sit in a park, take it back to your hotel room, sit on the balcony, sit in the lobby of the hotel room. There's a lot of places where you can go and sit and eat and be alone with a little less self-consciousness of being alone. But don't worry, it's actually really nice to just be alone sometimes because you can people watch and you can do things that you normally wouldn't be able to do if you were having conversations with friends or family that you were traveling with. My favorite thing about solo traveling is that I get to do whatever I want, whenever I want. And I love that. I'm an independent person. I love making those decisions. Sometimes it is a little fatiguing. Once you make that decision, the only person that's going to counter back at that decision is you. I love solo travel. I've traveled with my friends, my family. I've done photography groups. I travel with my husband still quite a bit. I do really love solo travel because I get to just do whatever I want, whenever I want. When you solo travel, you are your own boss. You don't have to ask anybody else what they want to do. It is 100% you. If you want to go to that super cheesy museum that probably your husband or significant other or friends wouldn't want to go to, guess what? They're not there. You get to do it. I love solo travel just for the pure freedom of being able to really, truly spend that time wherever I am doing exactly what I want to do. So if you're watching this and you really want to solo travel, but you're absolutely terrified to do it, I understand. Your feelings are absolutely justified and I get it. We can live in a pretty scary world. Do not take what's going on in the news as like exactly what's going on everywhere. Just be really smart about where you're going. When I very first started solo traveling, I felt more comfortable about it, and that's because I did a lot of international travel with a photography group, and so I got very used to how to find my way through airports, how to get a taxi, how to get hotels. I started to learn how to do all that. And so if you are really, truly uncomfortable about doing it yourself, just travel outside of your city solo. So find a different state or a different city, go by yourself, see how you enjoy it. Obviously go somewhere safe. Don't go international for your first solo trip. And then once you're kind of ready to start international, I would recommend finding a group of people that do the things that you enjoy doing. I enjoy knitting, so maybe I would go on a knitting tour. I also love photography. So that is where I got most of my experience international travel, was by going on photography trips. And at first I would go with people that I knew, and then I would start going with people that I didn't know, but still that same company. And then what I started doing is I started coming out on those trips early, solo, and just spending time in the country by myself, either before or after the trip. It is not something that you get comfortable with right away. Before long, you are going to be a solo traveling genius, and you're going to be loving it and doing whatever you want, going wherever you want, and seeing whatever you want. Within reason, still be smart. There's some countries you just shouldn't go to, and that's okay. There's plenty out there that you can. Really quick, my story of Costa Rica, and this is definitely something that I have learned. Luckily, I was smart enough not to fall for this. I was actually not solo traveling. I was with my husband, but we were both extremely tired because flights from the US to Costa Rica are overnight. And so we were exhausted after a very long flight, and I had arranged for a car to pick us up. We were sitting out in front of the San Jose, Costa Rica airport waiting for the car to arrive, and it was like supposed to arrive at, 1 p.m. and it was 12:30. We knew that it wasn't quite there yet. But we were just kind of sitting there waiting, and people were constantly trying to give us rides. And I kept saying, no, no, no. And this one guy was kind of badgering, and I said, no, we already have an arranged ride. And he goes, oh, I am your arranged ride. And I knew he wasn't. He said, let me see your, because I had the papers in my hand. He's like, was wanting me to show him the papers so that he could say, oh yeah, that's me. I did not show him the papers. And I said, you show me where my name is in your notes. And he was like, no, 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 show me, I'll show you on the paper. I'm like, no, 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 you show me where my name is. And he started to realize that like he wasn't gonna get this past me. People are going to try to do sketchy things. And I don't think he wasn't trying to like kidnap us or anything. He was just trying to get a fare because then he was gonna take us and then require us to pay him, even though I'd already prepaid for this ride. That man definitely was not our ride because he would have had my name in his notes as to who to pick up. And he was trying to see my paperwork so that he could see my name and put it into his phone. He had his phone out like ready to put information into it. Do not give your information, your name, your hotel, nothing to anybody who shouldn't have it. Don't fall for that. I'm very lucky that I was at least alert enough to know not to do that. So yeah, so that was sort of my little story, but don't fall for it. I hope that was helpful for you. If you have any questions, I do answer all of my questions. Put them in the comments below. I'm happy to help you. I'm Krista. I'm on a quest to check off 1,000 bucket list adventures, and I am definitely going to be doing a lot of those solo. And so I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, a thumbs up and a subscribe would be wonderful. I would be happy to share more adventures with you as well as more solo travel. Thanks so much for being here. Stay safe, be smart, and I will see you on the next adventure. Bye.